A lot of times in business, the only bad publicity you can get is no publicity. Good publicity, bad publicity, doesn't matter. It all ends up ultimately being good publicity, especially if you didn't have to spend money for it. And looking at the WWE, the publicity, the press, the chatter that was going on about their company and about their product and about their 2014 Royal Rumble pay-per-view on Sunday, the next day, heading into Monday, BBC's doing articles about it. Social media is afire about it. The internet's all buzzing and chatting about it. Ultimately, that's a good thing for the WWE, whether or not we want to acknowledge that or realize it. They did their job. They got us really anxious and anticipating what was going to happen this week on Raw. They got us talking about the product. They got us looking forward to this week's Raw. Unfortunately, this Raw, I don't think, did a great job of getting us excited about the road to WrestleMania. It was very flat and just left you feeling like watching this show was a chore. It was one of these episodes. It had a couple of highlights, yes, but it reminded you yet again that you devote over 3 hours to watching Raw every single week, and that sometimes it can be a bit much. And that's what this show ultimately felt like to me this week. So fittingly, Raw kicked off with who else? The Authority, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, as it should. A lot of the fans are very angry at them right now, so why not trot them out there and confuse the hell out of us, whether they're heels or faces or what the hell is going on. But you know, we found out something in this opening segment, and that is that Daniel Bryan, I do believe, is starting to realize how the game is really played. If you can't beat him, join him. And if it worked like that for Daniel Bryan with the Wyatt family, well, you would think logically the Wyatt family in the grand scheme of things are losers. You want to hitch your wagon to a star. You want to devote yourself and hop on the bandwagon of a winner. And there is no bigger winner ultimately in the WWE than the Breakfast Club. And this whole opening segment, it almost felt like to me, as the Cleveland crowd, for the one time in the night, really put in any type of effort to get involved in the show. As Triple H and Stephanie are trying to do their own little underhanded needling of burial of Daniel Bryan. It felt like to me, this was a segment where Daniel Bryan is trying to appeal to them to sit there and become a member of the Breakfast Club. That's the golden ticket right there. And he's just not being allowed to be in. Just let Daniel Bryan in already. Let him be a part of the Breakfast Club, damn it. And I have to say, when they call out for the Shield, Seth Rollins tripping over the barricade, jumping over it, then slipping on the floor was fucking hilarious. A really good way to kick off the show to me, and it set up the big 6-man tag for later in the night. You know, Daniel Bryan, all he wants to do is get in that Elimination Chamber match. He's just trying to ultimately really get into the Breakfast Club, and who could blame him? For all of you wrestling fans out there that are angry and upset with the WWE right now for what went on in the Royal Rumble and what has gone on in the months and years leading up to this moment, I've got some good news and I've got some terrible news. The good news is you have managed to get Daniel Bryan incredibly over to a point from a live audience standpoint of being easily the most engaging and entertaining and over performer in the WWE today. You have taken a guy that is all of 5'10", 195, 200 pounds, and made him a star. You have started to actually help cross him over into the mainstream, where people at Michigan State games are chanting, yes, yes, yes. You have helped make Daniel Bryan a star. That's the good news. However, I've got some terrible news too. And that terrible news is the WWE doesn't care what you want. The WWE only cares about what the WWE wants. No matter how much you think you could be great agents of change, don't confuse it. You're not. No matter how much you think you can lead the WWE to doing something they don't want to do, well, trust me, you can't. Let me ask you a question. How long have you been booing John Cena? Have you not been booing John Cena pretty routinely, loudly, and everywhere, almost unanimously, since 2005? And yet it is now 2014, and John Cena is still a top babyface, the same type of character, packaged and presented in the same type of way as he was back in 2005. So all of your anger and outrage and angst expressed towards John Cena has ultimately meant nothing. Remember when you tried to get Zack Ryder over, and at one point in time he was getting the loudest cheers out of anybody on the entire roster? The WWE wasn't ready for him to be a star, didn't want him to be a star. They resented the fact that the internet got him more over than anybody they could get over on their own roster. So what did they do? They buried him. For all of you that sit there and believe that somehow you could be these great agents of change and you could change the perspective in the minds of the WWE, I've got some terrible news. You've got no chance in hell of that ever happening. Accept it. Frankly, I don't understand how a lot of you haven't figured out how the WWE world really works by now. This is what I don't get about the WWE. You have a major storyline involving one of your top players in CM Punk and the Authority via Kane and Triple H, what have you. And instead of devoting any time to follow up on that, any time to follow up on what happened in the Royal Rumble with Kane eliminating CM Punk after CM Punk started off number one and made it to the Final Four, you decided to utilize some of your 3 hours on this show to the Real Americans versus Mysterio and Sin Cara, to a Divas tag match, to R-Truth versus Fandango. Really, WWE? Where are the priorities here, Vincent? CM Punk Kane, probably match Elimination Chamber. Let's not have them on the show. Let's have R-Truth and Fandango, so that way we've got an excuse for Xavier Woods to come out after the match and shuck and jive like you think every black wrestler in your company should. Ridiculous, lazy, and inexcusable by the WWE this week. How in the hell can you not better prioritize your product? Are R-Truth and Fandango going to have major storylines heading into WrestleMania? Probably not. But I can damn sure guarantee you CM Punk will, especially if he's going to be wrestling God at the damn show. He's going to be wrestling God. You would think you would do everything you could to devote your energies to building him up as much as you possibly can, so that way God could tear him down at WrestleMania 30. Ugh. I found it hilarious that they were having The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler in a Battle of Cleveland. Wow. In a Battle of Cleveland, ultimately, nobody wins. Everybody's a loser. And it's quite ironic when you look at what's happened with The Miz and Dolph Ziggler. You can look at both of these performers and say in the WWE's eyes, they have both become indeed losers. This, to me, was a match that was one big rib against both of these guys and against that city that sucks. Their sports teams are terrible. I've been to Cleveland a few times. Every time I get there, the city just looks dreary and it smells like shit. Like literally fecal matter from humans and or animals. A Battle of Cleveland, huh? It just shows me two guys that had a lot of potential in their company in Miz and Dolph Ziggler that they had pushed to differing levels. This is what the WWE has in mind for them in 2014. Wow. So in the 1 hour main event segment time, you had Randy Orton talking. And then Batista comes out. And then Brock Lesnar comes out. Heyman says for Lesnar that he either wants to face Orton for the title or Batista tonight. The McMahon family has just a little bit of time, and he better give him the answer that he wants. Otherwise, shit's going to hit the fan. If the WWE's aim and vision here was to try to continue to make Brock Lesnar seem like a monster to maybe build him up for a match with Taker at WrestleMania 30, then a job well done. However, if their objective here was to do a bait and switch, which I don't know if it necessarily was, then an unnecessary consequence, I think, really happened with this segment. A lot of people, I don't think, really want to see Batista and Orton for all types of different reasons, even removing Daniel Bryan from the equation. They don't want to see a Breakfast Club main event at WrestleMania 30. Now you have planted the seed in the minds of the fans that they might rather see Lesnar versus Orton in a title feud and or Batista versus Lesnar in a feud, whether or not it involves the title. So if that was your aim and goal, WWE, was to insert Lesnar here to take away from building up the Batista and Orton feud and building up the fans' excitement and interest and intrigue in that feud, then job well done. I don't even think they know what the unintended consequences of this segment were, but they were there. They were there. I think far more people, probably myself included, would rather see Batista and Lesnar face off at some point in time, preferably even WrestleMania 30, and hell, why not for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? So let me ask you this. Would you rather push the guy that gets a reaction or the guy that doesn't? Seems logical. Push the guy that gets the reaction. Would you rather push the guy that just beat your WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Randall Keith Orton, 100% clean a few weeks ago on Raw? Or push the guy that a little ways back lost a couple of times 100% clean to a repackaged, redone Sin Cara? Now, most fans with any sort of brain matter in their heads would say, I want to push this guy that gets the reaction and just beat Randall Keith Orton, your WWE World Heavyweight Champion, 100% clean on Raw a couple of weeks ago. But on the WWE's eyes, they say, we want to push the guy that gets no reaction that just jobbed out a couple of times to Sin Cara and Alberto Del Rio. I don't get it with the WWE. They will push Hispanic wrestlers and white wrestlers that get no reactions. But you get a black wrestler like Kofi Kingston, who does get a reaction that people do like. And they don't push him. Fuck the WWE for having Kofi Kingston job out to ADR here, so that way ADR could go on to continue to not get a damn reaction and then be Batista's jobber bitch at the Elimination Chamber. Fuck the WWE for this shit. Just shows more of the phony baloney BS of this company when they sit there last week on Raw and they talk about, we believe in Dr. King's dream and what a wonderful and great message he had, what a wonderful and great man he was. Well, you can clearly see Kofi is moreover, yet you push ADR. Wasn't that whole thing about not judging a man by the color of their skin, but the content of their character and what they could do? Seems to me at this point that Kofi Kingston brings more to the table than Alberto Del Rio. Yet somehow magically the WWE prioritizes Alberto Del Rio. So following up what happened in the Royal Rumble pre-show on YouTube last night, when the New Age Outlaws won the WWE Tag Team Championships for a sixth time, 14 years plus after they won their last set of titles, they're going to have the rematch here on Raw. Them versus the Rhodes Brothers. Did it just me, or did it seem like Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg kind of seemed disinterested? Did they not want to wrestle these guys, or did they not just want to be in Cleveland, and who could blame them? Could have been any number of a combination of things. I don't know. But at least early on, it's like it seemed like Road Dogg and Billy Gunn had anything else they'd rather do other than wrestle this match. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with the New Age Outlaws as the tag champions. And I'm also looking forward to seeing how they do this split up between Cody Rhodes and Goldust, hopefully leading to a match at WrestleMania 30 that we've been waiting for a couple of years now. They have Brock Lesnar come in, and he takes out freaking Goldust and Cody Rhodes. I'm for this. You're trying to build up Brock Lesnar into this unstoppable monster. Same unstoppable monster that couldn't beat John Cena at Extreme Rules 2012, but you're trying to build him up into a monster nonetheless. So I was okay with this. You have a wishy-washy finish, so Rhodes and Goldust can maybe beg for one last tag title shot against the New Age Outlaws, maybe at Elimination Chamber. I'm good with that. So it was getting close to the end of the show, and I'm sitting there and I was asking, because earlier in the night they had advertised that they were going to announce the next member in the 2014 WWE Hall of Fame class. I was asking people on Twitter, did I miss it or did they not announce it yet? I was hoping they were going to announce it. And they did. And needless to say, this is again a highlight for me. No question about it. This is another time, another instance where the WWE has truly given me a mark-out moment. And it's funny, too, because I look at this 2014 WWE Hall of Fame class, and it's now two performers from the Hogan era that I grew up watching and grew up admiring and grew up being fans of. One, of course, the first member, the headliner, being the Ultimate Warrior. And then the next individual, to me, every bit the headliner, Jake the Snake Roberts. When I think of Jake the Snake Roberts, so many people can say so many different things about Jake. I choose to look at the good things. And I choose to remember one of the great tweeners in the history of the wrestling business, one of the great psychologists in the history of the wrestling business, one of the great natural characters in the history of the wrestling business, one of the great performers to get the most out of what he did have and hide maybe what he didn't. Perhaps, arguably, the greatest talker in the history of the business. But when I think about Jake the Snake Roberts, there are so many different things, all positive, that really truly come to mind. But I just think about him, and you know what I mean, guys? You just think about Jake the Snake Roberts, and you think of one word: cool. Jake the Snake Roberts was fucking cool, is cool, will always be cool to me and a lot of others. I'll put it to you this way. When you talk about wrestling with non-wrestling fans, or maybe people that have tuned away from the product for many, many years, they might make fun of Hogan, and they might make fun of an Ultimate Warrior. But there are certain individuals they will always talk about in this certain light where these guys were just cool. That even if they thought wrestling was hokey and fake and corny and dumb and kitty crap, they loved the Macho Man Randy Savage. They loved Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts, to me, made wrestling cool for a different segment of your mainstream fan base. He was a different type of wrestler, a different type of performer. And I always think of Jake, and sure, I could sit there and say the woulda, couldas, and what should have beens. But he's somebody that a lot of Daniel Bryan fans should take note of and heed. Similar to a Roddy Piper, even though he did eventually get a short run with the IC title. Jake was a star and a top guy without ever having to have a belt. Never had one. Never had a belt. He didn't need it. He was so good at what he did, and he became such a big star without it. Why use it? Everybody's focused so much on Daniel Bryan and having to get the title, and I get it, to complete the Authority storyline, to get his redemption. But if Daniel Bryan doesn't need it to become a big star, then why use it? And that's one of the key things you can always think about with Jake the Snake Roberts. He was so cool, and he did so many great things. He's one of the greatest minds in the history of the business, one of the greatest in-ring psychologists in the history of the business, one of the greatest, most versatile heel-face tweener characters in the history of the business, one of the greatest talkers in the history of the business, and one of the greatest stars ever in the history of the business without having to win ever a major title in the WWE. So far, to me, the WWE is really outdoing themselves and impressing me tremendously with the Hall of Fame class that they are assembling for 2014. I'll do a video in a week or two talking about some of the other people that I want to see go into the Hall of Fame class this year. But to me, the WWE has went to great lengths to make sure that they rectify two previous wrongs, which was the poor treatment of the Ultimate Warrior for many years, and then the lack of good treatment of Jake the Snake Roberts for many years. And you could say, well, Jake was his own worst enemy. He had his own demons. He brought his own problems to the table, and that is all true. But it doesn't matter to me now, because now I feel like the Ultimate Warrior is coming back home where he belongs. And now Jake the Snake Roberts is coming back home as well into the WWE family, where ultimately he belongs. Congratulations to Jake the Snake Roberts. Congratulations to the Ultimate Warrior. I can't wait to hear both of their speeches at WrestleMania 30's Hall of Fame weekend. Should be outstanding stuff. Now, frankly, by the time we got to the actual main event match of Raw, I'm like, oh, God, could this show just be over already? And when I looked and I saw that this match was probably going to have to fill 25 or 30 minutes of time, I'm like, ugh. Let's get this done and over with. Here's what we know. Here's what we know. A lot of people seem to believe, because of internet reports and everything else, that the WWE totally rewrote this show and made a lot of changes in response to what happened at the Royal Rumble. I choose not to believe that and not buy that internet bullshit. And the reason I say that is because, one, the WWE is always going to do what they want to do unless they have a real reason to have to change it. And fan reaction is not one of them. And also think about it this way. How many times over the years, especially recent years, have you heard all these stories about week in, week out, that the show gets rewritten? You hear people talk about the show getting rewritten several times. What would make this occasion any more different or special? You're trying to make a mountain out of a hill here and trying to create something that flat out doesn't exist. The reason this show was rewritten is because most of these shows seem to be rewritten, and usually it seems like you could tell when these shows have been rewritten at the last minute because they tend not to come across very well. And that's exactly what happened with this show here. However, you could also see the influences of Daniel Bryan trying to fit in and understanding that he's not wrestling a CM Punk, or he's not wrestling a Dolph Ziggler. He's not messing with all these ham and egg jabronis. He's in the major leagues now. He's with John Cena and Sheamus, two members of the Breakfast Club. It don't get any bigger than that in the WWE. Daniel Bryan is not bigger than the Breakfast Club. Once again, I need to emphasize this. Daniel Bryan wants to be in that Breakfast Club position because they rank higher on the food chain than him. And that's never going to change. Never! Ever! Understand this. So it's these three versus the Shield. And this is a chance for Daniel Bryan to prove that he belongs in the Breakfast Club. And as this match is going along, it's all fine and dandy. But like I said, at this point, it was really hard for me to get into the match because the show just seemed to keep dragging and dragging and dragging. And it felt like a chore to really get through it. And then you get to the end. And what a squirrely fuck ending it is. The stipulation of this match is whichever team won, all three members qualified for the Elimination Chamber match to wrestle for the title next month. He had a feeling that Cena and Sheamus and Daniel Bryan were probably going to win. But the way they did this was so squirrely. You have the Wyatt family come out and interfere, but instead of maybe attacking Cena and Sheamus and Daniel Bryan, they attack the Wyatt family. That just seems dumb. You can mess with somebody physically, or you can fuck with somebody in other ways in terms of their job. And to me, if I'm trying to establish the Wyatt family as being intelligent, I would think they should attack the Shield. So that way the Shield gets that spot in the Elimination Chamber match. And Cena, Sheamus, and Daniel Bryan, one that you just got done having an issue with, another guy that you're starting to have an issue with in Cena, that way they don't get into the Chamber match. Instead, you go after them so you allow them into the fucking match. Just made the Wyatt family look like complete idiots. Now, I know what everybody's going to say. Oh, my God, this is the WWE changing plans, and they're putting Daniel Bryan in the chamber match because they're listening to us, and they're going to sit there and put the belt on him. He's going to go into WrestleMania the champ, and they're going to give us the Shield versus the Wyatt family at freaking Elimination Chamber, maybe even in a chamber match, and that's where the Shield is fully going to break up, setting up a triple threat between them at WrestleMania. Oh, my God, how awesome that would be. Yeah, you probably will get the Shield versus the Wyatt family at Elimination Chamber, and at least you're going to get that match. But think about it this way. All of a sudden, Sheamus is back, and Sheamus is floating there, and you really expect Daniel Bryan is going to beat Randy Orton and 4 other individuals in the Elimination Chamber to win the belt to go into WrestleMania to face Batista? Like I've said before, I do hope in these type of instances that I am wrong. As much as I like to be right, there are times where I really desperately hope that I am wrong. But usually I'm not. And the reason is because I choose not to ignore history. I choose to learn from history. So that way I don't repeat the same dumb mistakes that a lot of you are. Don't be naive about this. They are setting up still to Orton and Batista at WrestleMania. Lesnar and Taker, Triple H and CM Punk, Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. That's where they're going. Understand this. Unless somebody gets hurt or there's a dramatic change in something in the way the WWE has done things over the past several years, just like that, because y'all got pissed at one pay-per-view? No. I'm going to choose to listen to history and understand what's going to happen. So that way, when it does happen, I'm not setting myself up for the ultimate disappointment that sadly a lot of you are. And I understand it. Keep clinging to that hope. Keep clinging to that hope. But also be realistic and understand how the WWE world really works. Hashtag Breakfast Club rules, bitches.